She smiled like a movie star, and my stomach squirmed with revulsion. After a moment, though, the feeling was gone. It left me dazed, and she had to repeat herself. "Do you need anything else, honey?" she asked. The words dripped off her lips like syrup. Did I need something else? Why was I even here in the first place? My thoughts were hard to access through the heavy curtain of fog that had begun to enshroud them the moment I had driven through the city limits, off of a small nothing town. I had wound up here after taking a wrong turn on a long stretch of road in the Texas backcountry that seemed to be completely barren of anything useful. Most importantly, gas stations. Oh, that's why I was here. I needed gas. Gas, I said blankly. I need gas. She smiled that smile again. It reminded me of the way the wax celebrity statues at Madame Tussauds smiled. "You've already got gas, honey," she said. "Right," I said, and for a fleeting moment, a thought cut through the fog in my mind like a high-beam headlight. Get out of here, right now. But she flashed that Southern Belle smile, and the thought suddenly vanished. "Say, you don't look so good, honey," she said. "I don't?" "No, sir, not at all. You look about ready to faint." I did feel a little uneasy. "Not to worry, though," she said. "I know just what you need. A good stout meal of some Southern home cookin' should set your head on straight." My leg twitched, and for an absurd moment I envisioned myself breaking into a sprint, slamming through that glass door and running until my legs couldn't carry me anymore. The woman's periwinkle eyes seemed to grow just a bit around the edges, and I realized that would be rude. You can't turn down a free dinner, Darren. That's just not polite. The voice in my head was my own, but it seemed to have a slight southern twang. What a charming accent. "Of course," I said. "That would be wonderful." "Now there's a sharp fella," she winked at me. "It's about time to close up shop anyway. What do you say we knock off early and head to my place? My mother would just love to meet you." "Yes, of course," I said. I'd love to meet her, too. She came around the counter and took me by the arm. As she led me outside, my head gave a twang of pain. Boy, but it sure was bright today. "We'll take your car," she said. "It just won't do to leave it sitting out in the pumps all summer." "No, of course not." I dug into my pockets and I handed her my keys. The next thing I remember, I was sitting in her dining room. Arranged on the table was the most splendid feast I've ever seen. Thick cuts of honeyed ham, wide rations of bacon still sizzling with the grease, creamy mashed potatoes that wafted the most delicious smell of garlic and butter, and so much more. The fragrance, it was overpowering, savory and sweet, saliva-inducing even. There was a strange smell underneath it all, though. Rotting meat, or... "Have some ham, dear," the woman's mother said, offering a plate piled high with the meat, honey glaze glistening enchantingly in the light from the silver chandelier that sat above the table. The mother smiled, just like her daughter, and although she must have been in her 60s, there was something undeniably magnetic, seductive even, about her. "Yes, ma'am, thank you." I took the plate and I set it down in front of me. It looked so delicious. I couldn't wait to dig in. The first bite was halfway to my mouth and my hand froze. Some not quite conscious part of my brain caught a note of that hidden scent again. Mouth-watering, yet sickening and clangingly sweet all at once. My stomach squirmed and I felt a sudden urge to vomit. I think I better go. The words slowly slipped out of my mouth, without a forethought. I pushed myself up out of my chair and the daughter laid a coaxing hand on my chest, and then suddenly snapped it back as if she'd been burned. There was something burning. It felt like white-hot wire against my chest. I reached into my shirt and I yanked it away, and I felt it singe the flesh of my hand. I stared dumbly down at the crucifix in my palm. My grandmother's. A deeply religious woman. She had it blessed in Rome and insisted I wear it whenever I traveled, so that I might, in her words, be protected. Now it was glowing red with heat. "Oh, honey," the daughter said, "that looks terribly painful. Why don't you put it down?" "Yeah, I should put it down. It's burning my hand." I looked up at the daughter to see her smiling, but her grin was just a tad too wide. It reminded me of a wolf baring its teeth. Yet her eyes were so transfixing. They seemed to be growing wider and wider like bottomless wells. I could feel myself being drawn into them. It was almost too late when I saw her mother creeping around the side of the table with a carving knife. I gripped the burning crucifix and my arm went rigid, like I stuck a fork into a wall outlet. It moved on its own, slapping the crucifix into the old woman's forehead. She shrieked a ragged, throaty wail that turned my insides into a bucket of oily worms. Her mouth shrunk back around teeth that seemed impossibly large. Large and, oh, so very sharp. I felt a searing pain in my shoulder, and I swiveled to see the daughter had sunk her teeth into me. Her jaw was dislocated like a snake's. I slammed that crucifix into the top of her head, and her hair burst into flames. Undaunted, I thrust the crucifix into her skull over and over and over until I felt a crack beneath my blows, and her jaw's grip around my shoulder had slacked. She stumbled backwards and collapsed into a heap in the corner. Her skin was dripping off her bones like melted wax, sizzling and smoking as it dropped to the floor. The old woman was already gone. A pile of ashes spilled out of her empty clothes. With a final, ear-shattering scream, the daughter exploded into a ball of fire. The ball collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing but a scorch mark behind. I heard buzzing on my right side and looked down towards the table, where moments before there had been a feast, where chipped plates piled high with rotting meat, flies buzzing all around. Feeling half drunk, I stumbled out of the house. What I saw outside stole away whatever scraps remained of my courage. Trembling, I bolted to my own car and jammed the key into the ignition. My tires screamed as I hit the throttle and drove. I glanced in the rearview mirror only once. The house loomed in the darkness like an evil idol, and all around it were the decaying, rusted remains of hundreds of cars. I hope you ghouls enjoyed this Texas creepy story. I found a creepypasta, but honestly, with my schedule, it was too long to read. It would have taken me, 5-6 hours just to record and edit it, like the audio. And I'm sorry, I just don't have time for it. But this one was really interesting. I liked it, and it kind of reminded me of like Courage the Cowardly Dog, like when you're like in the middle of nowhere and all this weird stuff happens and only one person can tell, which is Courage the Cowardly Dog, and everyone else is just like oblivious to it. So it kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, how are y'all doing? How are you ghouls doing? I hope you're doing good. I hope your spring is, doing good and you're ready for summer. Like, I'm ready for summer, but also I don't like the heat, but also I'm sick of being cold all the time. So it's like a love-hate with summer. But as always, ghouls, the last video will be on the top left, the next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen, as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.